Afternoon. We're going to go ahead and call to order the August 20th, 2024, 3:04 p.m. Canvassing Board certification meeting for the August 6th, 2024 primary election. I am Canvassing Board member Julie Wise, your elected King County Director of Elections, and with me I have Canvassing Board member Kimberly Frederick, Chief Civil Deputy in the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and Stephanie Sirkovich, Chief of Staff to the King County Council. We are staffed today by Geraldine Hampton, our King County Elections Ballot Processing Manager. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed via the King County Elections Facebook page and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after this meeting. Now we will hear from Geraldine with an overview of this election.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. For this August primary election, we went into the election anticipating we'd reach 40% turnout from our voters. Although we had a slow start right around the end, we were able to eke just above the 40%. We ended at like 40.68%. But who's trying to round? I'm going to add those 2 extra points just to show we got over the 40%. Hooray. Back in 2022, we only made it to 39% in the primary. And then in 2020, we were at 43% turnout for the primary. That translates into approximately 567,000 ballots returned from our voters. New and exciting this election, we had, for voters who participated and opened up their envelope packet, we had a new ballot insert wrap. So we debuted this new wrap. The wrap includes all of the regular information you would receive on the previous ballot inserts that came with your ballot packet. Although I would say this is in a much more color-friendly, amazing design element here. And then our beloved I voted sticker. Ooh, thank you, Julie, for the display. Look at the color, all the info. And the coveted I voted sticker is now back in the hands of all of our voters. Super exciting. And one of the other really cool features is we are able to provide our voters with the closest 5 dropbox locations based on their residential address. So that was no small effort that we had a whole variety of our team members collaborate to be able to make that happen for our voters. Ballot dropbox activity. Because we're in a primary election, we had all 82 of our boxes open this election, including our 3 newest locations of South Sammamish Park and Ride, Morgan Junction Park in West Seattle, and then we also have a box newly installed on 12th and Cherry in Seattle. Dropbox returns came in at over 330,000 returns, which is 58% of our total returns. The most utilized boxes for this elections were, drumroll, Redmond City Hall took the #1 spot. Ballard Branch Library was #2. I don't even know when that last happened. Each of those boxes had around 11,000 in returns, and Redmond just barely beat Ballard by like 50 ballots, I should say. So it was neck and neck. About 196,000 ballots, which is 59% of total Dropbox return, actually came in on election day itself. And one of the nice stories here, one of the ways in which our driver teams are able to participate in our goal of expanding voter access is by making extra deliveries or pickups to residences or our community partners. So we had 10 extra stops added to our various driver team routes. Some of these stops were either picking up voted ballots or delivering ballot packet materials to voters with mobility issues at their residences. Some of the other stops were to community partners and retirement centers, where we were delivering voter pamphlets and other voter information. So just another way our driver teams are helping expand voter access for our voters. Vote center activity. The Renton Vote Center opened 20 days before the election to help voters with registration, accessible voting, and getting a ballot. Then on that Saturday and Monday before the election, along with Election Day, we opened 5 more Vote Center locations, one in Federal Way, one in Kenmore, Kent, Bellevue, and in Seattle. We issued over 1,100 ballots to voters at these locations, with over 550 ballots being issued on Election Day itself. Interesting fact, 82% of the ballots we issued to people were to existing voters and not new voters. One cool story we got, I guess it's a couple cool stories. We had a 97-year-old voter come in and share some of their past voting experiences, as well as some other fun life experiences with our Vote Center team. And then we also had a visit from someone with a guide dog in training whose name was Fiddler. And the Vote Center folks, of course, love to see any guide dogs and are looking forward to helping this voter as well as Fiddler in future elections. Turning attention to challenges, reasons we might challenge a ballot include a missing signature or a mismatched signature on the ballot declaration. Ballots are also returned too late to be counted, or in the event we cannot verify the identity of the voter, we would not be counting a ballot. So for this primary election, we ended today here with under 6,800 mail ballot challenges. Of those, it was actually 70% were returned too late to be counted. As of today, we have 2,000 signature challenges remaining, which is 0.4%, less than half of a percent of total ballot returns. And 69% of voters initially challenged did in fact return a signature challenge form to help us count their ballot. So 69% is a really good number. Generally speaking, we'll see between 40 and 50% of challenge resolution forms being returned to our office. So there's a lot of activity out there, people getting the word out about how to cure your challenge. So at this point, I'd like to present to the board item E-4000, which is a list of 6,781 challenged ballots for rejection.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Julie, I will now read you the oath of authenticity.
Oh, I'm not quite done.
Oh, you're not done. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
I got a few more pages of interesting information for you. Now I'm going to turn to prior election ballots and invalid ballots. So between and during every election, we receive ballots from previous elections. For each piece received, we'll open the envelope to ensure the voter didn't accidentally return a current election ballot in an old election envelope. Sometimes that happens. We just double check everything. There are also ballots that we need to invalidate in any election. So reasons to invalidate a ballot include a voter who returned 2 ballots, we're going to count one of them and invalidate the other. If a voter tells us that they didn't vote that ballot, we would invalidate it. A ballot from a voter who transferred to another county or moved out of the election area, what we do is we send that physical ballot to the new county, and then we'll invalidate that record in our county. Sometimes we receive ballots that a family member or new resident will write moved or deceased on the envelope packet itself. So we'll invalidate that because there's no voted ballot inside. Those are some of the reasons we might invalidate a ballot. And so right now I have at this point to present to the board item E-4001, which is a list of 379 prior election ballots and invalid ballots for rejection.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And now, let's see, provisional ballots. So we don't necessarily have what is considered traditional provisional ballots, but we do have an online ballot marking program where people can look up a residential address, access a ballot, mark it, and return it to our office. So with these ballots and with every other ballot material that we receive, we're validating, is this person an eligible voter? Did they already cast a ballot? And do they have a valid signature on that declaration? Well, for this election, we received 3 ballot packets from people who accessed this application. 2 of them were not registered. One of them was a canceled record. Therefore, we were unable to count these 3 ballots. So I would like to present to the board item PV-8000, which is a list of 3 provisional ballots where we were unable to count because these people were not registered to vote.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, a little summary about ballot alerts. We now have nearly 83,000 people that are subscribed to ballot alerts. which is fantastic. These alerts are text or email notifications that voters can opt into, and then they'll receive alerts when their ballot is mailed out to them, when the ballot is now received by our office, when they've sent it back to us, when their signature is verified and accepted, or if appropriate, if the signature is challenged. And then recently, within the last year, we added reminder alerts. So the Thursday before an election, we'll send someone a notification, hey, election day is Tuesday and we haven't received your ballot yet. Voters who signed up for these alerts had a 70% turnout rate instead of the 40.68% turnout rate of the majority of the voters here. So pretty exciting. And I believe that we added like 8,000 subscribers just within this last election. So the growth of this program is very exciting for us here at Elections. Temporary employees. I like to call out all of the temporary help that assists us in all of our election activities. We hired around 300 folks to help us out, to help out the crew of around 70-ish full-time staff here. Again, we regularly hire people for all things elections, including customer service, ballot processing, data entry, our driver teams, Dropbox closers, and etc. So we couldn't do it without all of their help. We had a strong observer presence here this election. Before the election really ramped up, I had 64 people go through my 2-hour observer orientation, like 5 days of trainings, and we had 43 distinct observer visits throughout this election cycle. So a lot of activity here, which is exciting to see. Now I'm going to touch on several different audits that took place this election. First, I'm going to talk about our first ever statewide random compliance check, which is something that we'll be doing each election from now on. It's for signatures that do not match. So on Monday, August 12th, the Secretary of State drew a random selection of 382 challenged signatures. So signatures challenged for signatures that don't match from across the state to audit. King ended up getting 108 of those challenges for the audit. During the review, the supervisor of that team and I found 2 signatures that we would have accepted. So we took that information, provided feedback to the staff who challenged those records, and monitored their performance for the rest of the election. And as I mentioned, this is a new process that will be happening after each election. So I'll be giving you a report out each time as well. And another audit we've done is what's called a batch audit. This is a process where we randomly select 6 batches of ballots. It comes out to approximately 1,500 ballots, and we do a hand count of a randomly selected contest. We then compare those hand count numbers to the tally that came from the tabulation system itself to prove to ourselves and any observers who are present that the tabulation system is counting votes as it should be. So Thursday of election week, we audited the Attorney General contest and found 0 discrepancies. We had 1 observer present for this audit. And then final audit to talk about is our 12th risk limiting audit that we completed this election. This audit was conducted on August 14th, which was a Wednesday, and was in addition to these other 2 audits I just described. A risk limiting audit, it's a different kind of post-election review, where in this case, we are looking at individual ballots instead of batches of ballots and comparing each vote on the marked ballot against the tabulated votes. So the purpose of this type of post-election audit is to provide statistical confidence that the winner is really the winner. So there were 200 ballots identified. This was a statewide risk limiting audit pilot. So of the 200 ballots identified by the state, King got 54 of those ballots to audit. And we again found no discrepancy. This time we were auditing the governor's contest, which is what was selected for the audit. And we had 4 observers that were here for this particular audit. So it's unique in that all 39 counties were participating in this audit. We'll be doing it again in the general election. I am excited to say we are now reconciled with 0 discrepancies, and we're at number 35, 35th election in a row with 0 discrepancies. So that's super exciting. And before we do the certification, we do have recounts in our future because we don't want the election to end. We're very excited about this. We want to do some recounts. today's certification, we are anticipating a manual hand recount for the statewide Commissioner of Public Lands contest. I don't have final statewide numbers for this contest, as all of the counties are still finalizing their certification and their final results reporting. I will say, though, that the last statewide hand recount was back in the 2004 governor's contest. And the last time we had a statewide hand recount in a primary election was back in 1960. To find ourselves in a statewide recount, to be in a statewide hand recount for a state contest, there must be less than 1,000 votes difference, and also less than 0.25% difference between the votes cast for both of those candidates. Because we're in a primary, we're looking between second and third place, because the top 2 vote getters are the winners and will move on to the general election. Because it's a statewide contest, we'll be doing this recount by batch, because we know the contest exists on every single ballot we have. So we don't have to pull ballots out of boxes and resort them into precincts. We'll just count by batch. So for each batch, we're going to have a team of 2 people sort the ballots into piles according to the votes. For example, the count team will have a pile of ballots. One pile will be overvotes, one will be undervotes. You'll have a pile for candidate A, candidate B, and the rest of the candidates, since we're in a primary election, and then any write-ins. After the sorting is complete, the team will individually count the ballots for each pile. They'll compare their numbers with each other, and then they'll ask for a runner who will ask them to share the real results that they got, and then we'll know if we have a count that matches what the tabulation system says. All right. We also, in addition to this anticipated statewide recount, currently have 2 precinct committee officer contests that are tied. And because they're tied, we have to do a hand recount. For a non-state contest to find itself in a hand recount threshold, there must be less than 150 votes difference, and also less than 0.25% of the total number of votes cast for both candidates. So these 2 tied precinct committee officer contests are for the Democrat precinct committee officer in precinct SEA 46-1370, Sam Zinner and Timia Thilani. And then the second tied precinct committee officer contest is for Democrat precinct committee officer Shoreline 32-0474, Abe Bender and Bradley Cade. So for these 2 precinct hand recounts, we will have to pull out ballots out of batches, sort them into their precinct, and then we'll do the hand count similar to what I just mentioned. Our current tentative plans are to start recount activities on Monday and complete counting activities on Wednesday, September 4th, and tentatively certifying the recount results on the afternoon of September 5th. All of the candidates, parties, and observers will be notified of the final schedule in advance of any processing activities taking place. And then finally, our next election is right around the corner. Our next election is the November 5th presidential general election. Our first canvassing board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 13th at 1:30 p.m. At that meeting, we will review ballots with voter intent questions, but we'll also do a delegation of authority for election ballot processing activities and recount activities for the upcoming 2025 election year. Just so that we have that on the books, looking forward to next year. And now I'm done with my longer than normal summary of election activities.
Thank you. Julie, I will now read you the oath of authenticity. It reads, I solemnly swear that the unofficial returns and supporting documentation of the primary election held on August 6, 2024 in King County, state of Washington are true and correct.
I do. Our next item is the certification of the canvassing board, and it reads, the undersigned officers designated by law as constituting the canvassing board for the County of King, State of Washington, hereby certify that this is a full, true, and correct copy of the abstract of votes, including the number of registered eligible voters, cumulative results, precinct results, and report of votes cast at the primary election held on August 6, 2024 in King County, state of Washington.
I do.
Thank you.
I do. Geraldine, I want to give a huge congratulations to the entire team at King County Elections. And fabulous report out today. It's really great to hear some stories that actually happen and take place in elections over the days leading up to and including on election day. This is I lost count. Election number 5, I think, this year that the team has undertaken and had done a fabulous job. It takes a lot of preparation for elections this size. Congratulations to the entire team at King County Elections. That's our full-time employees and the some 300 temporary employees that are dedicated to coming, most of them each and every election, to help administer democracy. So, and thank you to this canvassing board for taking your time to carefully review voter intent. It's really, I think, meaningful that in Washington State and here in King County, we look at every single vote and ensure that voters took the time to get registered and to count and to cast their ballot, that we want to make sure to count it how they intended it. So thanks for everyone's support and help in this election. I appreciate you all. And I know the team will have a busy another couple of weeks in Recount land, but a good muscle for us to flex. Is there any further business for today's meeting? Great. This King County Canvassing Board meeting for August 20th at 3:25 is officially adjourned.